St. Augustine can probably most accurately be attributed, at least in Western thinking, with introducing the problem of other minds. How do I know that you have a mind? How do I know how your mind works? It's a problem. Well, particularly for St. Augustine. It's not like he sets out really to discuss the problem of do other people have minds, or is there only one mind in the universe, or any of the various problems associated with this question. What he's worried about is he wants to be sure that he and his fellow Christians associate with good, righteous people. I know there was some level of persecution in St. Augustine's day. I know that more likely was the Christians stirring the pot. Catch my video on Augustine and suicide. But there were informers, there were people who only pretended to be Christian or good or righteous people. They had other reasons, maybe not state prosecution, but perhaps simply getting an in with a certain group of people, somehow presenting themselves as one sort of person and turning out to be another sort of person who had nefarious outcomes on their mind. So he asks the question, how can I know? And he turns to Scripture. Appeal to authority, not good philosophy. Augustine is more honestly understood as a theologian than a philosopher, but the kinds of problems he's going to talk about now are why we include him amongst the philosophers. Because though he refers to Scripture, he doesn't really refer to it authoritatively. He refers to it more in the way one scholar might refer to another scholar. And he points out that the marks of a righteous person are certain behaviors. How do I know whether you are righteous? Do you behave like other righteous people? Okay, you're behaving that way, but are you thinking that way? Are you really that way, or are you just putting on a face? And what he suggests is the only way we can do it is to look at this other person and see how much they behave like me. How close are they to being like me? I do know the contents of my own mind firsthand. I mean, I do all my own thinking. I don't farm it out. Every now and then, okay, I give it to Google. But, most of the time, I do all my own thinking. And because I do all my own thinking, when I see you resembling me in your behavioral patterns and the words you say, the things you have and the things you do, if you're close enough to my behavior, I assume you are like me. You have the same qualities as I do in terms of being righteous and God-fearing and conscious and having a mind. I mean, I can't look into your head and see your mind working. One of the most frustrating things about trying to teach online is the inability to look at a student and determine if you're reaching them at all. You just really can't. Not like you can in person. Of course, you have the opportunities to repeat the lectures and play it till you get it. And ask questions, always ask questions. In any of these videos I present, feel free to ask questions. I'm a little slow sometimes in responding, but I do respond. It's interesting to note that the American philosopher Charles Sanders Peirce suggested some 1,500 years later that what a belief was a tendency to behave in a certain way. Carrying Augustine's analogy full circle into saying it isn't analogous, it's exactly all a belief is. There isn't any, what shall we say, There isn't any other thing that makes me behave, like there's a belief and so I react to the belief. No, 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 no. The fact that I actually behave this way is the belief. If I did not behave that way, then I would not believe. Interestingly, Peirce's notion makes good sense of a couple of other ideas that we often encounter. People will say, I believe it, I know it to be true, but I don't believe it. Now, that sounds nonsensical, but looking at it from Peirce's point of view, I know it to be true. I know it is true, but I behave as if it isn't. That makes sense. But it does mean that knowledge doesn't rest on the back of belief. But come to pragmatism someday, and we'll tell you all about that. That's down the road. But there is another problem. How do I know you have a mind? I mean, I know somebody has a mind because you're behaving like me. You have all the signs of having a mind. But how do I know you have all those signs because you have a mind, or do you have all those signs because I'm looking for those signs and I am giving you those signs? I am giving you the property of a mind because I am sharing my mind with you. It's always fascinating to talk about fictional characters. Hamlet's indecision, Sherlock Holmes' brilliance, Sam's loyalty, Romeo's love. All of these things don't exist except in our minds. We create those minds. How can I be sure that I'm not creating your mind? That there is only one mind, my mind. I know my mind's here because I have direct apprehension of it. It's working all the time. But how do I know you have a mind beyond the analogy I draw? It's possible. I mean, as I say, in the fictional characters, Pollyanna's cheerfulness and Martha's hardworking and Juliet's love, Irene Adler's shrewdness. All of these things are inventions of my mind. How can I know for sure that your behaviors aren't just patterns that my mind shapes in you? As I say, this is called solipsism. And generally speaking, it's awfully hard to disprove. I think more interestingly is what's gained by assuming it. What is gained by assuming it? Well, I suppose it grants me a certain, but it doesn't, you see. I was going to say it grants me a certain liberty to mistreat you, but it doesn't. Any more than, the great objection that was raised when Conan Doyle kills off Sherlock Holmes at Reichenbach Falls. Spoiler alert. Oh, I suppose I should have said that. When Holmes is killed, his fan base just goes mad. There is no person here. Nobody died. Conan Doyle just thought he'd write no more novels on this character, no more stories on this character. So I'll kill him off. It would be curious if he hadn't announced that Holmes was dead, would there have been the backlash? And there's no mind there. But the point I'm trying to make is this treatment of Holmes was seen as immoral, irrational, wrong, morally wrong. Not just, oh, I want to read more stories, but how can you kill the man? See? So I can't, even if you turn out to only have a mind as an extension of my mind, that doesn't liberate me to treat you as I will. The same obligations exist. Nothing to be gained by solipsism, much to be lost. So I suggest to you, even though it may be logically consistent, reject it. There's just nothing for it. I think you have a mind. Well, I think a lot of things. And I talk about a lot of things. I'm going to keep talking philosophy. Why don't you?